Thank you so much. And as many of you know, I am from Silicon Valley and used to divide my time between Silicon Valley and Norway. And thanks to COVID, I've been here for almost full 2 years and very much appreciate that. And my company, Next Step, works with organizations around change, innovation, and business growth. And when I look back to 2 years ago, almost, when I was last in my Silicon Valley home, it was a time when digitalization, innovation, we need business model change, we need to avoid disruption was top of all agendas. But another thing that was very interesting in January of 2020, while innovation was a key CEO objective, there was a lot of momentum in the business models and the market and the financial growth. And I was in a presentation January 15th of 2020, the top analyst in Goldman Sachs, PwC, et cetera, made this statement: nothing can slow business growth. Expansion of GDP over another 14 months. There will be nothing that stops us. And so while digitalization, change, innovation was on the agenda, the expectation was we can still continue along and we'll be okay for a period. But as we all know, something changed. And when COVID came and we realized we're not guaranteed 14 months of continued growth, digitalization became top of mind. Not just top of the list on the structured business plan, but it was important that we actually find out how to innovate. In Silicon Valley, we've often said necessity, the need to change, finding a problem and then identifying a solution is the path to innovation. So when COVID struck, companies were not able to deliver product to end customers. Travelers were not able to travel. Supply chains were disrupted. People recognized that innovation thing that we've been talking about is something that is critical and core, because in order to sustain, we have to innovate. So within a course of literally days, then weeks, companies that had culture shift on the agenda actually saw culture shifted. They moved from 8 to 4 in the office to working from home, doing what we need to do in order to figure out how to service customers. New solutions were quickly developed without months of trial, without months of approvals. Sustainability was prioritized when we recognized that our impact on the planet is much greater than what we thought. And as the world moved to digitalization, we all recognized the importance of people that maybe we had taken for granted in the past, that we work together with colleagues, we can brainstorm in a room. The need to work and come together became much more of a priority. And digitalization, which had been on these agendas for years, honestly, happened in hours. And personally, I was very, very surprised, but also glad to see that leaders, and that could be leaders of a team, leader of a family, it could be leader of an organization in Norway, as well as Central Europe, Africa, US, Latin America, leaders all looked at some of these changes through similar eyes. It was one of the first times in history that I'm aware of that everybody faced the same challenge. We all had to change in the same way. And one of the initiatives that I have been working on for the last 3 to 4 years is something called the Executive Growth Alliance, through which we use a digital platform to bring together leaders from different countries, different industries, different areas to work together on specific actionable challenges that are relevant for all of them. And so back in March of 2020, we leveraged this platform with some of our friends from around the AmCham table that participated in many of our forums and our circles, as well as people from Germany, UK, US, Mexico, Africa, etc. And we brought them together around very specific actionable challenges. What are you going to do in the next 3, 6, 9 weeks in order to address the challenge of how do we move into this pandemic? Because let's be honest, in 2021 and 2020, there was no rule book, there was no expert, there was no class somebody could go to learn how do I change in a pandemic in the 20th century. So these folks committed to trying something different, learning by doing, and sharing openly in a digital platform, but through open, human, personal interaction, challenging one another, supporting and listening to each other. And over the 18 months since March of 2020, across 5 different circles, 85 executives from different locations, they have had major breakthroughs, and in a lot of cases, I would say, solved these 5 challenges. How can I digitalize my products and services while potentially maintaining a revenue stream from the traditional ways I've done business? How can I shift the culture of my company and bring agility and OKRs and the willingness to fail? How can I bring that into my culture? How do I even begin to understand what my customers are going to need today, tomorrow, and in the future when the world around us is changing rapidly? And what can I do to recognize when a disruption is coming and to proactively be ready to address others coming from outside my industry, outside my area, that could be future competitors? And ultimately, how do I build a resilient, future-ready organization with people that are committed, empowered, loyal, and working hard to ensure that we're constantly meeting customer needs, addressing change as it happens, true future readiness? So these were the 5 key challenges, again, across all geographies, across all industries, and ranging from 1 to 2 person companies up to Microsoft, Schneider Electric, Sutter Health, very large entities. So I wanted to share with you this morning just a few things that were top key learnings on a couple of these challenges. And the first, since this is a digitalization forum, was how did people approach this? How do I digitalize products? And that could be, I run a train service, and if there's nobody on the train, what do I do? Through to, I have a restaurant that is closed, what do I do? The first key learning, and I think we all in our personal and professional lives saw this happen, doing the same thing in digital doesn't work. That was the first reaction from just about every organization and person. Well, we used to do it in a meeting room. Let's do it on Zoom. It'll be the same. And that quickly wore through to say, that can't be the same. We can't take a in-person real experience and simply recreate it. A restaurant that was a 5-star experience can't create the same thing by delivering food via Foodora. That doesn't work. So the big learning there was you've got to truly start by taking a short step back and understand the customer needs. Now, in March of 2020, most of us didn't quite know what we needed beyond, I need to survive right now and figure out what's going to happen next. But as we got into April, May, June, and people started to recognize that we're not quickly going back to normal, we need to think through and brainstorm and explore and talk about what we might need. Companies that built or built on top of existing good relationships with customers and went out and talked to them and co-created what would that digital solution look like were the ones that advanced most quickly in this digitalization. And that included asking customers, what's one small thing that would help you in today's world? It doesn't have to be forever. Start small. And the concept of learning by doing. Start, try something. If it fails, great. You know that doesn't work. Now try something different. If it works, build on top of it. The other aspect for all leaders with employees or even with contractor teams, how do I keep people involved? The big answer to that question is tie the employees' objectives, daily tasks, what you're measuring, to number one, what they're interested in. As people, we like to work with things that are important to us. Your employees want to work on things that tie to their values, that tie to their passions. So redefining teams so that people can focus on what's important to them that is also important to the customer. If there was one term that I heard in every single executive growth circle since March of 2020, every single circle, I hear someone say, the answer is ask questions. 2 ears, 1 mouth. Ask your employees what's important to them. Align their objectives around that. Ask your customers what they think they're going to need, what would make their journey easier, how do they want to pay, how do they want to order. Ask them, listen carefully, build your solution around them. If you ask the customer how they want you to build it, they don't know. They're not experts on how you build product. But if you ask them the question of what are you trying to achieve? What do you see as the key challenges you need to solve that maybe with what we have, we could solve? The old Henry Ford didn't go out and ask people, what kind of transport vehicle do you want? He asked them, what really is important to you in the course of your week? And they said, I want to get to where I'm going faster than my neighbor. I don't care whether it's a horse, a donkey, or something else. So it's all about how you ask. And that actually is an observation that I've had during this pandemic, is that in a lot of cases, the build it and they will come. I mean, no offense meant, but sometimes that's kind of a Norwegian way of doing things. We have an idea, we research it, we build it, we perfect it, we make it beautiful, and we hope they will come. That's, in ways, kind of the flip side of Silicon Valley, where necessity is the mother of innovation. Norway has tended to be more supply side. We build it and we sell it. The Silicon Valley innovation mindset is much more on where's the problem? Let's find the problem, and then we'll figure out if we can supply it, and then we'll go back and we'll check on whether we're meeting the customer need. That was actually a pattern that we saw through the pandemic, was the customer need became much more important. And part of that was in timing, because there isn't the time to make it beautiful and then hope they come. Which actually ties to the other key learning I wanted to share this morning, which is around how do you really have sustainable agility. And so you can proactively see what's happening in the market. And interestingly, what was learned around agility and open culture and shifting to be able to adjust quickly, it's kind of the same thing. Ask open questions and listen. Look outside the silo and see what's happening around you. And as a leader, and I think we all lead from whatever position or role we're in, constantly challenging yourself. And that's one of the advantages we've seen during the pandemic, is we have all had to challenge ourselves to do things differently. We've all been forced to learn new technologies, to do things in very different ways and patterns, and continuing that process. We're not at a point of coming through, we're at a point of working along the journey of what can this digital world mean. Measuring objectives, knowing where you are in the process, but always looking forward and keeping the eye open to the customers and the market, taking things small. One of the things we've observed is many of the companies that work in EGA have certainly seen their digital offerings grow, but in a lot of cases, they've also seen their traditional offerings grow. And that's both out of that understanding of customers, but it's also pacing it. You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. You want to maintain that traditional where it's possible, but build the digital on top. And ultimately, across all of these circles, as I mentioned, we've seen a lot of breakthroughs in learning by doing. And when I boil down to what have they accomplished, many of them have seen their revenues actually increase. And that's both through digital solutions, but also traditional. They've achieved higher rankings as market position. Their employees are more engaged because the employees are working together on things that are important to them. They have clear objectives that they can measure their movement. Products have come to market much faster than I've ever seen before in Norway. And ultimately, the people that have taken the risk, that have jumped in, shared, changed, and innovated, have confidence. That's the biggest difference, I believe, is the confidence that I can shift quickly, I can innovate, I can fail, and I can learn. The need for innovation drove change, drove success. And so as we go into this new paradigm, I would suggest we want to get away from sitting in boxes and what I call the Norwegian yes, but here's the problem, to more the innovation mindset. Yes, we have a great revenue stream, and yes, we think positively, and let's look how we can build on top of it.